Hey guys, it's Kat and I am back today to talk about products or tools that I personally think make my makeup life a lot easier. So this is not comprehensive. This is just, I was thinking about it and I wanted to mention a couple of these things and I thought, look, I'll do a video on it. And I've just done a full face using Nabla, which should be up by the time you're watching this. So if you do want to know what's on my face, there is a video for it. So I'll link that down below. But essentially, I was just looking through some of my products and I'm like, there are some products in my collection or tools in my collection that I find so goddamn helpful. I don't use them every day, but I feel like when you're in a pinch or when something's not going right, I find these products just make your makeup life a lot more easier. So these are things that I think a lot of people who are big into makeup will know about or will have in their collection. But if you are sort of dabbling in makeup or you have your basic sort of foundation and powder and whatever, you might not have these in your collection, but I think they make such a big difference when either things go wrong or things aren't working or whatever it might be, that I thought I'll do a little video on it. All right, I wanted to start with products that sort of help out your base because I think these sort of things can, once again, once you start using them, you realize how handy they can be. And the first thing I want to mention is a sort of color adjusting product. Now, it doesn't matter what it is. Here I have some Ulta 3 Lightening drops. I've got some deepening drops. I have a concealer from Maybelline in the lighter shade. And I use all of these for the same purpose, which is to tweak my foundation. So finding the right shade of foundation can be really, really hard. And it also depends on the time of year. So you might find that you have a foundation that's your perfect match in summer, but then you try to wear it in winter and it's just too dark for you. And that's where you can add in something like lightning drops, which will adjust the color of the foundation without you needing to go buy a new shade. Or of course, sometimes you just order things online or in store, you buy something, the lighting looks really different, you take it home, you're like, that doesn't suit me. So having something to adjust the color, I think is invaluable. It means that you can pretty much use any foundation that is within a couple of shades from your natural skin tone. Now these I use for lightening and deepening, but again, if you do have something like unusually pink toned skin and you find that a lot of your foundations are quite yellow toned, you can find concealers or even color correcting products that are quite pinky or reddy to mix with your foundation to tweak the color, or vice versa. You can find a yellow one to mix in with your pink foundations to sort of color correct. And I find that if you have something like that in your collection, you can get use of most of your foundations, which is really, really fantastic. So again, these color adjusting drops, you can get them from cheap brands. Ulta 3 in Australia is really cheap. You can get them from Essence, which I do have some somewhere. I couldn't find it. But these I love to use because they don't actually change the consistency of your foundation. They just slightly alter the color. The Maybelline concealer that I use, I like to use concealers as well because once again, they don't water down or change the consistency of your foundation. They just tweak the color slightly and it's amazing what foundations you can use when you know how to tweak them. A lot of people bang on about primers and, primers, they can work for certain things. So if you want to fill in pores, yeah, primers can be great. If you need extra hydration, you use a primer that's sort of like a moisturizer and it adds more hydration to your skin. But for me personally, I don't find primers do much for my makeup. It's more about addressing skin concerns. So primers, I feel like they're overhyped. One thing that I think is underhyped is actually sort of finishing spray type products. These aren't setting sprays. So setting sprays are designed to prolong the wear of your foundation. These are more, this is actually a primer water from Smashbox, which you can use under your makeup or over your makeup. Fourth Ray Beauty is the ColourPop skincare brand. This is the Glisten Up Mist. Something else that's very, very popular that I don't have just with me right now, but I do have is MAC Fix Plus. So these are examples of finishing sprays. Now what they do is they add a little bit of moisture to your makeup when you've finished your makeup, and it doesn't increase longevity, but it just settles down your makeup so it looks more natural to the skin. So for example, I'm wearing a full face of makeup. I haven't set it with anything. I'm going to go in with this Smashbox one. It's a nice fine mist. Oh, it smells so good, this one. So good. And what it does, again, it doesn't add any longevity to your makeup, but all it does, it takes away a little bit of that powderiness. It sort of makes it meld with your skin a little bit better. So if you find that your foundation looks too cakey or too dry, or sometimes it looks a little bit like flaky and just not really sitting well, go in with a finishing spray and it should really settle down the makeup to bring it back to looking a little bit more sort of working with the skin rather than fighting against it. So again, these are pretty popular products. Like, a lot of people know about them, but a lot of people don't know why you use them. And it is just to sort of settle down your makeup, to make it look a little bit more cohesive with your skin and to take away some of that cakey powderiness. These are also really good to apply eyeshadows foiled. So if you hear someone talking about wetting your brush or foiling your eyeshadow, a lot of the time people use finishing sprays. So what people do is they get their eyeshadow brush, they pick up the product on their brush, they spray it with one of these types of products, and then you apply it to the eye, and that little bit of moisture means that the shimmery eyeshadow or whatever eyeshadow you're applying really sticks to the eye in a lot more pigmented way. So yeah, you can use them with eyeshadow application, but they just look so great on the face. If you're having sort of one of those, I've applied too much makeup, this looks really cakey, yeah, go ham with one of these and it will just settle it down really nicely. All right, let's get on to eyes. And I think this is a huge one for me because eyeshadows can be the most daunting task when it comes to makeup. And I often get a lot of people asking like, oh, how do I get this to wear? Or how do I get this to apply? And that often is the frustrating thing. You can have a really beautiful eyeshadow or eyeshadow palette or pigment or whatever it might be. And you're like, this is just not applying well, or it's just not wearing properly, or I can't make it work. And that's where I think people, look, I think a lot of people who wear eyeshadows all the time, they don't underestimate a good primer. But I think when people are getting into makeup, they don't really understand the value of an eyeshadow primer. So some people will say that concealers work just as well as a primer. And if that works for you, totally go for it. It comes down to body chemistry. But for me, I think a good eyeshadow primer will make your makeup last all day, especially if you do have slightly oilier skin. You need something to stop the oils from disrupting your makeup and making it crease and wear away and just fade away throughout the day. So ones that I really like the NARS ones. I've got the shade light and medium here. So these are just tinted eyeshadow primers. I think they work a lot better than a concealer on the eye. And I will generally not even I won't even bother doing eyeshadow unless I've got a primer, because you put in the work and it pretty much fades away or melts away throughout the day. But an eyeshadow primer is, a must-have to make that eyeshadow stick to the eye properly and also last all day without fading. The next level of eyeshadow primer, which once again, I don't use on a daily basis. Normal eyeshadow primers I do, but glitter glues, I think people must have them in their collection. You might only reach for them like once every 2 weeks or whatever it is, depending on your eyeshadow sort of preferences. But if you really want to go something sparkly or something really bold, if you want to apply glitter to the eye without it raining down your face, a glitter glue is a must. These are pretty much like primers, but on steroids. They're very, very sticky. You put them on your lid like a normal primer. Shimmers and pigments and glitters and multi-chrome pigments will stick to your eye and not budge, and you'll get the most out of the eyeshadow. So not only will it last really well because it grips to the sticky base, but it also looks the most intense you can possibly get it to. So yes, you can foil your eyeshadows. So you can, like I said, spray it with setting spray. But often what I find when people do that is throughout the day, when the eyeshadow dries, it can start sort of fading off. But because these are a sticky, grippy base, eyeshadows will not budge on them, and they really do intensify sparkle or glitter or pigments or whatever it might be. So my two favorites are definitely the Too Faced glitter glue. I've had this one for years, but also the NYX glitter glue is probably close to it. I think this one's a little bit better, but this one's a lot cheaper. They both work really, really well at gripping the glitters and the pigments and the multichromes and making things look really intense and vibrant and beautiful. An eyeshadow tool that I think a lot of people need to have in their collection because it just makes things a lot easier, and you don't particularly need this one, but this is just an example, is a color switch. So a color switch, this is actually the Ella Cosmetics double cleaning mat. So one end is a brush cleaning mat, which I don't use, but this sort of coarse, you can see it's like a black sponge. And essentially what it does is in between using an eyeshadow brush, you can rub your brush on it. It takes most of the eyeshadow off, and then you can use the same brush with another color. So what is great about this, it means you don't need to clean your brushes as often. You don't need to use one color and then be like, oh, now I need to reach for another brush, because you can just wipe off the product and you can use the same brush for multiple colors. It just really saves having to like wash your brushes often, or, you know, if you're doing a look like I'm wearing today, if I really wanted to and I wanted to use this, I could probably do it with 2 different styles of brushes. Whereas if you've got the nudes and you've got the teal colors and you've got all these different colors going on, if I didn't have something like this, I would need to probably use 6 or 7 brushes. So it really is handy when it comes to just sort of spot cleaning your brushes as you go. So yeah, they're sort of known as color switches. So you can switch between different colors on the same brush, but they're super handy to have. One multi-purpose product that, again, it's sort of similar to the glitter glue, where you might not use this every day, you might not use it every week, you might not even use it every month, but it is very, very, very handy to have in your makeup collection. So this is Inglot Duraline. Mine, the lid is actually, it's supposed to have another cap on it. I might put a photo on the screen of what it actually looks like. Mine has sort of come off, but I've had this for years. Mine is probably I've only used maybe a third of it, but I've had it for such a long time. This is a rehydrating product, and it is a must have. So like I said, you don't use too much of it, and at each time you might only use a drop. It's got this small little dropper. So essentially this product is a rehydrating product, but also a waterproofing product. So what it does, if you have a dry product, so like a dry gel liner or a brow pomade, you can actually drop a little bit of this in, mix it in, and you can rehydrate and keep using the product. You can do it with mascaras, you can do it with liquids, you can do it anything that's drying out. This helps rehydrate. It's also really great at turning powder products into liquids. So if you have a really beautiful pigment that you want to turn into a waterproof liner, you just mix a tiny bit with this on like a little palette or something, and you can create your own liner. So this is super, super fucking handy. It's one of the best products ever. All right, last thing, and I've got Simon here, so I'm running late. Sorry, Simon. So if Simon's in the background, sorry. But last thing I want to mention is something that's super, super handy to have in your makeup collection, which is what this video is about, Simon, by the way, is something, again, that I don't use all the time, but it's really handy in a pinch, because if you screw up your lips, or you have the wrong shade of lipstick, or you have a lip gloss that sort of looks smeary and doesn't like look nice on your lip line, having something like a nude lip liner that matches your lips perfectly is super handy to have, because you can sort of correct your lip line. You can sort of deepen or change the tone of lipsticks that might be too light for you, might be too dark for you. It's a really good base, or a good way to sort of maneuver or adapt a lip color. So I think even though I don't use them often, having a nude lip line, even if you want to wear like a red color, if you start with correcting your lip line with a nude that matches your lip color, you can always put a red over the top and it's not that noticeable. So yeah, if you're ever going to get a lip liner, I think get one that's like exactly your lip color or a tiny bit darker, and you'll find that you can create your own perfect like glossy lips as well. Instead of using a glossy lipstick, I much prefer to put a lip liner on and then a lip gloss over the top. I just find it's more flattering, and you can sort of control where you want the shine. So yeah, it's a really good tweaking mechanism. So nude lip liner, very handy. All right, I'm going to get going because I want to catch up with my friend Simon. But those are some items that I think are really handy to have in your makeup collection, either to make things just work a lot better, or to fix issues that you might come across. So if eyeshadows aren't sticking, or something's drying out, or your makeup's looking cakey, these are the kind of things that you can reach for. You don't need to use them every day, but they will make a huge difference in just making your makeup a lot easier to apply and wear a lot better. So that's that. I'll see you guys in the next one, and see you, Simon.
I'll see ya.